All right, what's up, Lab Coat Agents? Live
What
here
up?
with David Stites and Dan Corkill of Followup Boss. Great to have you guys on today.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know David, you should all know David. David, can you give us a little bit of backstory on you?
Yep. So Sandy and I run Team Stites out in Southern California. We're actually in Menifee. Closed I think we were at 282 deals last year. Goal for this year, we want to do 366. It's a leap year, so we got to up our goal by 365. Been using Followup Boss. I don't know, maybe Dan, can you see from your side? I think we've been using Followup Boss for 3+ years now.
Yeah, I think since at least 2016.
Yeah. So 3-4 years now. And I guess that's why I'm here today.
Nice. And then Dan, can you give us a little background on you? We said Followup Boss, but for those that don't know the system or know who you are, can you kind of give us a rundown?
Yeah, sure. So, my name's Dan. I'm one of the co-founders of Followup Boss, and basically we're a lead conversion CRM for real estate teams. And that's what we help people out with. So.
But you're not an all-in-one system, though, right? You don't have like a website that's bringing leads into Followup Boss. That you are like APIing with other people's stuff, correct?
Yeah, that's a great point. So we don't build websites or do any lead gen, and I guess our approach is more like, be that central hub for all your marketing is going to plug into and websites are going to plug into. And then, we can help you manage that with your agents and then also track it all so you can make sure that, it's all working in your business and you're closing the deals you want to close, you're hitting those goals. And then, you're making a profit at the end of the day as well.
Love it. Now, so Stites hitting 282 and pushing that over 300 this year, give me a little bit of a rundown on how many agents are taking those opportunities that you got on your team.
So last year we had about 12 producing agents. We're always onboarding new ones. Experienced agents are kind of graduating to the brokerage side. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say a revolving door, but we always have people going from team side to brokerage side and then new agents coming on. So usually we're at about that 15, 16 agent mark with about 10 to 12 producing agents to help us reach that number.
Love it. So today, what I'd really like to dive into with both of you guys today is this. To do that kind of volume on your team, or any brokerage, doesn't matter. But if you're using a centralized system like Followup Boss and you're doing hundreds of transactions, I have to think that leads are coming in from multiple sources, referrals are coming in from multiple sources, opportunities coming in from multiple sources. And once they hit the system, there's got to be some systems behind that to produce results. Am I right or am I right?
Yeah, so that was the big reason why we chose Followup Boss. So we were using, it was Elevated Network. So we were using another system, Elevated Network, when it was just Sandy and I. When we started adding agents onto the team, it became very, very clear that agents are not the best at inputting or updating the CRM. If a lead comes in, if it doesn't automatically route into your database and an action plan get assigned, most likely they're not going to follow up with it. So that's when we jumped into Followup Boss, just because they integrated with absolutely every single lead source that we're currently using. And Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like every month you guys are adding more and more and more as new lead sources come out. So the integration with Followup Boss has just been amazing with us.
Before we even get into that, let me just, for the people viewing right now at home, how many agents out there do you think are still using this as their CRM? I mean, let's just start right there, right? So a lot of agents, and I know this because of the brokerage I run, are still very old school in their approach to how they're keeping track of opportunity, who they should be talking to, and when they should be talking to them. And that, in my opinion, is not a scalable model. I mean, especially when you start bringing in large opportunity, how do you keep track of all these moving parts, right? So Dan, you want to tell us a little bit about Followup Boss, like how things are organized in Followup Boss to help with that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think a lot of people come to us in a sort of similar situation to David. When it's just yourself, I guess you can keep yourself accountable pretty easily if you're, a motivated person, which most successful real estate people are, of course. And But then you have to start tracking a team, right? So like David sort of alluded to, a big part of that is like, well, what can you automate? So you want to automate all your contacts into a system, whether it's ours or another one. You don't want that to be a manual process. And, I think you just have to look for where you can remove inefficiency there. And then when you're bringing on team members, I think a big thing is not to be like Big Brother, but at the same time, if you're spending a lot of money on Zillow or on, different lead gen channels, you have to make sure that these things get followed up and there's a process, right? So there has to be some way to track that. And also just to give coaching and help people improve. So essentially, like we just power a lot of the technology behind that. We sync with your team's emails, their calendars, all those kinds of things. So we can kind of make it more convenient for the agent, for them to do their work, but also, give the team leader that, overview accountability as well. That's sort of our goal.
Well, as a Followup Boss user myself, I run a brokerage and a team within the brokerage. For me, what I really like about Followup Boss versus some other CRMs that we've used is the action plans that we have in there. And we built some of our own, imported others. But what I like about Followup Boss is the action plans generally have two sides. You've got the consumer-facing side with the consumer messaging, the drips and stuff like that. But you have the agent-facing side with all the tasks that are popping up on your tasks, right in front of you. So you don't really have to dig for them. You show up in the morning, your tasks are there, you deploy, you go. You mentioned efficiency. And back to scalability and efficiency for you, Stites, over 282 deals, I have to assume that not everybody beat your agent's door down to go sell them a house or sell a house for them. There was probably some work the agent had to do, 282 times to make that happen, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And going back, kind of piggybacking off what you said, so we've created a lot of our own action plans for new leads coming in, for new escrows, new listings, kind of so on and so forth. And we integrated it all into one action plan. So there's consumer facing and agent facing and admin facing action plan all in one. So the customability of it is just, it's awesome. It's great.
It is awesome. So, but back to why to even do in the first place. I mentioned the, the solo agent with the white or yellow notepad versus the, those using the CRM, 282 deals, 366 you want to do this year. How many of those buyers took, not one, but multiple phone calls, text messages, emails over not a month, but 6 months, a year, longer than a year before they start engaging and start becoming transactional to go buy or sell a home? Is that a fair statement that quite a few people didn't just roll over and beg to get sold?
Yeah, and I love the name, and we have kind of a play on the name. You're either a follow-up boss or you're a follow-up.
Yeah, right.
Everyone on our team learns how to be a follow-up boss. The money's in the follow-up. That's what everyone says, and it's absolutely true. I coach a lot of agents that just prospect, and they're just looking for that one person that says, yes, set the appointment right now, and then goes on it. That's not where the money is. The money is in the nurtures and then following up with those nurtures. So
back to my point. Yeah, back to my point. If you're doing this hundreds of times a year, it could take, 10, 15, 20 contact attempts, 5 conversations, 10 conversations before they buy. But to manage all that with those hundreds, if not thousands of contacts in your system, you have to have automation and efficiency in that. That's a fair statement, correct?
Right. And I think a big disconnect for most agents is they come into the office, they sit down and they say, okay, what do I do now?
Now what? Yeah.
Right. So with Follow-Up Boss and how we run it on a team is the agents come into the office, open up Follow-Up Boss, click on Follow Up Today, and boom, they have their 50 or 100 contacts that they have to make that day, get through that, and then get on with your admin work or your contracts or go out and do showings. But our really 8 to 11 o'clock is really dedicated to just doing those and getting through your follow-up todays.
Okay, question for you maybe, Dan, if you've got, I don't know how closely you monitor your teams that are doing, really big business, or like I think our brokerage now has about 150,000 people in Follow-Up Boss. That's a lot of people in there, right?
Yeah, sure.
So to figure out who to focus on when and what time, that's a challenge. So database management, that's one thing that I'm super passionate about, is going in and figuring out who to talk to. If you have 1 hour a day to follow up with people, who should it be? And it's almost like triage, right? Like who you need to follow up right now might change based on some life event of theirs, change of circumstance. And now somebody that was way in the back burner now hits the forefront. So my question to you, Dan, is how are you seeing teams that are doing really well with this, with database management, tagging, organizing, triaging these opportunities so that the right people are focused on at the right time?
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's a couple of kind of buckets you can put people in, and maybe a little bit later we can pull up David's account and show you what he's doing in his. But basically, there's kind of the new leads coming in, right? And you know, kind of like you guys are getting at, like they're not all going to want to go and see a house today, especially some of these online leads, right? And so you need to sort of, you know, stay in touch with them over time. So that's one bucket, though. Obviously, we understand like following up with them quickly is important. Then there's like the people that you have talked to, right? And I think this is where, you know, a lot of people know they leave money on the table is you've talked to them, they say they want to buy a house, but they're just not buying a house right now. Like maybe it's in 6 months, maybe it's next year or whatever. And so again, I guess that's where you have to come in with a tagging system. And I think one of the simple ways you can do that is like if they say, oh, I'm interested, we're going to be looking in 6 months, you know, that's roughly our timeline. Then I'd think about like tagging them like July 2020. Now I definitely wouldn't wait until then to follow up, but then so you sort of have some, you know, you can go in, click that tag and see like everyone that's tagged July 2020 and work on those. So that's one way. I mean, each team I think has a bit of their own different system. It can depend on like which coach they're using, that kind of things. So a lot of people use like the A, B, C, D type system to like grade their leads. But then I think like once you work through those people, like, so those are really like important people. Like you have at least some relationship with them. You've had some conversation with them, and you qualified them that they are going to buy. And then I think the third group is like, it's just like kind of like your nurturers who you probably have never talked to. They may not even know who you are necessarily, right? These might be people though that are still getting your emails or visiting your website. And so those are the kind of people that I guess you want to warm up and have that initial conversation with. So, you know, the way you do that in our system is you'd be looking for activities like they've been on your website recently, or they have opened an email recently, that kind of thing. So generally I think about it in those three buckets, but I guess the beauty of the system is, you know, if you have a slightly different way you want to work it, you can set that up as well.
Okay, so Stites, Dan brought up a good point. So let's say based on their consumer behavior, they have not engaged with you whatsoever, they're non-responsive. Then all of a sudden you see that they've been on your home search site, you know, yesterday, and they looked at one listing 4 times. Does that now change the follow-up protocol, who you should be talking to that day because they took an action? Does that something on your team change who you're following up with?
Yeah, so we'll do a few things. So first we'll hit follow up today, and then we'll go through and see last activity on the website. We'll just sort it to see who's been on there. And then what we've been playing around with a lot and what we love is our smart lists. So we can go on and say, okay, if someone's been recently active on our website and we haven't contacted them in 7 days or more, show me all of those, so then we can get through those calls next. So
can you define a smart list for those that don't know what a smart list is?
Yeah, I can take that one. So it's basically just a way to filter your database. The difference between this and like maybe just like bucketing or putting people in a stage is it's dynamic. So kind of like Dave was getting at, it can be based on like the last time you talked to them or like the last time they were on your website. So the kind of idea is like it's always dynamically updating. It's not dependent on you just going in and manually clicking like this is moving from like lead to hot. So yeah, it's just a way to filter. In our system, that's kind of what these are up the top here. So this is David's follow-up today list that he was mentioning before. And you can see like there's 149 people in there. And now generally with some of them as well, like once you go through and then you actually do follow up with them, that's when they may drop off the list depending on like your different settings there. So yeah, basically a filtering, you know, prioritization system, I guess.
Love it. So, you know, that's what I was getting at. That's what I was driving at is, you know, when based on their behavior, what they do, an action they take might trigger a different action on the team side, right? So your system's allowing for that by building the smart list and helping prioritize where we spend our time and follow up. A, it's hard to get agents to follow up in the first place. And B, if they're going to do it and there's only a limited amount of time they can do it, isn't it best to have them follow up with the right people at the right time, right? So that's kind of where I was going with that. So beyond the smart list, David, beyond that, tell me how you're prioritizing who to talk to. What other key triggers are you looking for?
We love the last activity for the website. And then also if we mark them as a hot lead, so it looks like we have 1,586 hot leads in there right now. That's another thing that we'll do. We'll say if you're a hot lead and you haven't been spoken to in 7 or more days, that's another one that we hit. That's a top priority for us.
So when you say us, your agents are doing it. You know, for me, I'm a big believer that you have to inspect what you expect, right? So just because you want your agents to follow up, what are you doing from the operational side of your team to ensure that your agents are doing the tasks that you put in front of them?
Yeah, great question. So the reporting tab, we check that, or our admin checks that on a daily basis to see who's making their calls. So we have a minimum standard of 50 phone calls per day made. If you make your 50 phone calls today as an agent on our team, your leads are turned on for tomorrow. If you don't make your 50 calls today, then your leads are not on for tomorrow. So we're going in on a daily basis and seeing who is making their minimum standard of 50 calls per day, and then going in and turning their leads either on or off on a daily basis.
Okay, so the other question would be, the follow-up would be, how do you know they're making their calls?
Great question. So Followup Boss has a pretty nice dialer built in, and the dialer allows them to also record the calls for them to go back and listen to, or for us to listen to use it as a training opportunity.
So I love that. And then Dan, maybe you can tell me a little bit about your thought process behind this. But first, you know, if on my team, if you're not making the calls through Followup Boss, you're not making the calls. If I can't see it, it didn't happen. I don't know if you're running that same way, Stites, but that's
Yep.
how we're doing it. And
Yep.
what I love about the recorded feature of this is agents will often tell you that, you know, my conversation went like this, and here's what I said, or here's what I know to say. And then when you listen to it, you find out that it was nothing like that. There's a major disconnect. So it's really hard to find training opportunity. I think a lot of agents on teams really do need training on what to do and how to say things. But unless you hear physically what they're saying, you'll never know exactly how the conversations are going off and what's going wrong. Do you agree with that?
I 100% agree with that. And before we made it mandatory to make the calls through the dialer, everyone was telling us they were making their 50 calls. And once we made it mandatory to make the calls through the dialer, it was amazing how many more appointments were being set and escrows were being opened. So obviously they think they're making 50 calls. They were usually probably making 10 or 15. So just the tracking on there to know how many calls are sent, know how many emails are being sent, know how many texts are being sent, how many notes are being updated in the system. It's extremely valuable.
And then Dan, was your thought process behind that feature of the recorded calls, was that for those training purposes, or do you have something else in mind on that?
Yep, that's the main reason. So you can coach people. Like if something goes wrong, I guess you've always got the recording. But I guess, yeah, it's mostly like a coaching opportunity. I think the other reason, I guess, we sort of tried to build all this in is we don't want the agent to have to switch between 4 or 5 different programs just to do their follow-up. And so we're trying to really make them more productive in one spot as well. But yeah, I love you guys, big focus on coaching. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious for you guys, do you have sort of, do you share these numbers with the team, or because I think the other powerful thing about tracking this kind of thing, you can see Michael there has 1,100 calls, Eric's got 1,000, Lizette's got 500, so it's kind of with our sales team uses Followup Boss as well. And when you can see how much activity other people are doing, for competitive people, it's you want to get to the top kind of.
Well, for me too, I like the tracking to really break it down. So it's, some of our agents don't do that well at follow-up. They struggle with follow-up, but when they actually get a conversation, they convert so well at the conversation level. But I know what their struggle is. I know you're struggling to actually make the dials. So I know where I need to work with you. Another agent is a monster at follow-up. They hit every task and clear that task, but their conversion's lower than what I'd like it to be. Then I know where the problem is, right? So I think the more metrics you're tracking, the more it'll point to where there's a disconnect. And it gives me the opportunity to come in and have those conversations the right way. Because again, why are they on a team unless they want to be successful and have tools and have opportunity that they couldn't do on their own? So you want to make sure that they're going to be successful doing it. Stites, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I bring up this chart during our agents one-on-ones. So they get to see, we do 2 one-on-ones a month, and so they get to see exactly where everyone's at. And if there's an agent that they look up to on the team that's doing, 3-4 escrows a month, I could show them, this is what you're going to have to do. This is the work that you're going to have to put in to get here. See, you're only making 340 calls where you need to be making 1,100 calls. So I think that's a great idea, though. Putting this up at the office, maybe projected onto one of the screens in the bullpen would be pretty cool.
So can we switch topics real quick? What I'm really curious about is action plans. We've been kind of dancing around those topics a little bit. Dan, can you tell us a little bit how Followup creates the action plans? How people load their own, like where you're seeing good action plans come from? Just give me your load on that if you could.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like they're there to help, guide the agent and automate some of the emails and task reminders. And basically but the goal of that is to give the, consumer a good experience, right? So we come with some action plans already built in. A lot of people build out their own. We definitely suggest that because you kind of want to customize things a bit in your voice. Again, like you're going to have your own slightly different system about how you want to use tasks or what standards you want to have in terms of follow-up. But yeah, they basically can be applied pretty dynamically when new leads come into the system. So if it's a high price lead, you might have a different action plan. If it's a seller versus a buyer, that kind of thing. And then, basically from there, this is like kind of the reporting screen. You can see on all David's action plans, the engagement rate he gets. So like this is people actually replied back to those action plans. And so, that's one of the things you're looking for as well. Like if you're seeing super low reply rates, then either you may have like the wrong people or you probably have, like a confusing message. So that's kind of overall what they're doing. But then I guess the other side is it looks like Dave's probably built out a few for like when they go through different processes in their business, like they have a new listing one, stuff like that there. I'll let Dave tell us a bit more about that, but it can help with the operation side as well a bit.
Yeah, I'd love to hear, David, some of your custom action plans you've done, what they are, why you've done them. And then also I wanted to talk to you about a Sphere and past client action plan, because I feel like people don't treat that piece of their business the same way they do on any other lead gen. So first off, custom action plans, why'd you do them? What's the results? Let's hear that.
Dan, let's go into that new listing action plan.
Okay, sure.
Let me move Okay, so this is one that we set up. It's both client facing, admin facing, and agent facing. So for the clients, it's going to be educational email drips on the process and what happens when what comes up, and then different.
Give me an example. Let's get granular with this one because this is really interesting. So,
cool.
You're telling me your process is, fill me in here.
Yeah, it looks like it's all blurred out. Are we able to?
I can unblur that. Yep. Let's go deep. Cool. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the introductory email saying, watch out for the next few emails coming because we're going to educate you on the process and how everything works. So let's go into one of the next email templates, Dan. Okay, so important, pre-photos and showing checklists. So we're basically going to set our expectation of what we want the house to look like for the photos and for the showings.
Nice.
Let's bring up another one here. What is included in the sale of your home? So basically, we were having some clients take ceiling fans or taking the oven after close of escrow. So we're like, okay, well, let's use this as a training opportunity or an educational drip opportunity to let the clients know what they can and can't take out of the home.
So first,
one of our clients got sued for taking drapes from a home. So that actually spurred this email action plan.
So first thing I want to say about this, what I love about this particular action plan is, as I alluded to a minute ago, most people think of action plans all with lead nurture, lead follow-up. You're building these with existing clients, which is great. And, you know, I don't think people think of this system in that capability the way I think they should. So that's good. Do you have any other existing client templates that you do, like, you know, a new buyer, here's what's going to happen first, second, third, fourth? Do you have any of that stuff built out or no?
Yeah, so I'm actually in the process of redoing my new buyer escrow. So I built out the new listing and the new listing escrow first because I was the one doing listings, so it was helping me first. And basically what it was doing was explaining the entire process so that my phone rang less with questions on what's next, what's next, what's next. I wanted the client to know what was next before they even thought, oh, I wonder what's next.
Right.
So I'm actually building out the new buyer one. I was working on it actually yesterday. And it'll go through, and a lot of it's the same information. It'll go through, you know, what's a termite inspection? What can we expect with a physical home inspection? What happens if the appraisal comes in low? I mean, just basically we're taking every stage of the buying process, breaking it down, and then doing an email, and then we're also doing YouTube videos for it as well.
Love it, because, you know, we've done the same kind of thing in terms of, like, you know, even before it went under contract. But, you know, here's what's going to happen in your home search. When you find a house, here's the next step. When we go looking at houses, here's what you need to know. Like, you can kind of build it out all the way up to under contract and beyond. And I love the idea of video. So you can, BombBomb integrates to Followup Bust, right?
That's right. Yep.
So you can do a BombBomb series of videos if you want on these processes if you want, which is beautiful. So next question is that I got for you, either Dan or Stites. One thing I see a lot of times is people fail to really think about action plans for their existing people that already know, like, and trust them. They're always thinking lead, you know, cold lead or internet lead or whatever. So have you built out anything that's a great past client follow-up or, you know, Sphere, you know, referral generator, anything of that nature? Or have you seen someone do it?
Yeah, I'll take it first. So right now I set up just a past client action plan. That's a quarterly reminder, follow-up today tasks sent out to the agent. So it's just, how's the client doing? Check in with the client, give them a call. So it's basically just a quarterly update. Nice.
You know, and we've done some things in terms of, like, you know, the home anniversary 1 year from when they bought their home, or, you know, on our SOI, their A, you know, once a month, we're going to be calling them, you know, on our A's. So gifts too. You can also, you know, give yourself a reminder to send them something once a year or whatever it is, or whatever the thing might be. But Dan, have you seen anybody really build out anything on that side?
The other big thing you can be doing is, like, setting up a smart list for those past clients. So, like, once you've categorized them as a past client, you can then say, like, I want to see all my past clients where I have no communication with them in the last, say, 2 months or 3 months. So again, that way it's dynamic rather than task-based. Mm-hmm. It just depends a bit on your workflow, but there's a lot of benefits to the it being dynamic, because then it's going to update even if you just call them one day on the dialer, or they text you and you text them back, right? Because that's a touch. So that's another big thing I think people are doing. I saw some of the stuff here in David's action plans. I think I saw another one about Instagram. I think that's great to, you know, have as steps, whether that's you explicitly in your action plan, or you're just training your agents to make sure they're connecting with people on social media. It's obviously, you know, here. And so, yeah, just making sure you're following people, you're friends with them on Facebook, you know, that kind of things too.
Jump onto our follow-up every day. I think it's follow-up every day with Decker. So Decker's our lender. So Decker gets contacted, and he has tasks assigned to him as well. So inside this action plan, the agents are getting assigned tasks and the lender is getting assigned tasks.
And is there consumer messaging sent from this one too, or just task related?
Say that again?
Is there consumer messaging on this one, or is it just task related?
It's task related to the agent. So when a lead comes in, the agent's going to call, double tap if they don't answer the first time. They're going to send out their video text. They're going to send their video email, create a saved Ylopo search. All get spit out immediately for the agent, and then the lender needs to call, and then the lender sends the email intro if they don't get a response.
Love it. Love it. So really, you're using the task manager for a number of different things. It isn't just follow up with this lead. You're using the task manager for a number of different things, which I think people fail to think that you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. So can we talk for a minute to jump back to lead sources? Out of the 282 that you did this year, did you have it broken down? How many were online leads versus repeat clients versus open house? Did you track that this year?
Yeah, so I have all of that in CTE.
Yep.
Our biggest lead sources this year was agent referral, past clients, Zillow, Realtor.com. I'd say those were our biggest one, and then Yelp and Google from there.
Great. So I wanted to, do kind of a spitfire, some of the, between you and us, some of the, where the leads that we're getting, put in there. And then maybe Dan, if you want to add some too, I think that'd be great. But first, we got some questions to address here too. And this is something that I was going to bring up. David, are you willing to share some of these action plans? How often do you hear this? I would like to share I would like to see some of these action plans. Instead of recreating the wheel yourself and building your own, everyone's always looking for good content that can be shared that they can just tweak and implement, right? Am I right or wrong on that?
Yeah, a lot of my action plans I share. So a lot of my action plans are in the library already.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for doing that. Yeah, I can see there's a lot of those shared.
And is it being recorded to watch later? Yes, we'll be posting this later, publishing it later. Okay, so lead sources real quick. So Ylopo is one that we're leveraging quite heavily to generate leads, but we also do quite a bit of leads on our own inventory. So we're leveraging Call Action and ProQuest, both which are funneling right into Followup Boss. Are you guys integrated with the VoicePad too?
I think we do have some customers using it. I'm not 100% sure on the integration. I do think we have some people sending leads in from that though. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I have to double check.
Obviously the portals like Realtor.com and those are pretty obvious that people are leveraging there. Listings to leads is another one. That's one thing. I think we did 6,000 leads last year through listings to leads for free on Facebook.
Wow.
That was huge. And then we started retargeting them, of course, through Ylopo. How about other sources, Stites? What do you see? Oh, and Spacio. That's another one too that I see people dumping a lot of open house leads in through Spacio. How about you? Anything else?
Yeah, so you have a lot of the referral sources. You have HomeLight, Fast Expert. A lot of the different referral sites automatically flow in there as well.
You guys integrating with like HomeSpotter, HomeSnap too?
I'd have to double check. Like with our, actually, one good place to check this, it's just because there's so many of them. Sometimes we have to double check our lead provider list, but on our website, you can actually check which ones we've got listed up here. Let me see if we've got HomeSnap. So HomeSnap is there, yeah. So yeah, basically almost anywhere that sends you like an email about the lead, our system can pull that in automatically. Even better if they've got an API integration, but most people are at least going to do that, and so we can pull them in.
Nice. So the idea is you're bringing in leads from all kinds of sources. You're bringing in contacts from all kinds of places, and you're marketing to them based on different action plans, different tags, because database management and organizing is about probably the most cumbersome, but probably the most important in my mind aspect of the entire process. Like you have to be able to organize people so you know who to follow up with, which plan to set them on, and when to be talking to them, when to be actually calling them. But you're dumping in all these different sources so you can get them in there to start organizing your database. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and
yeah, totally.
What's nice about that, Mike, is I might have some agents that I want on Zillow on my team. There might be some agents I don't want to have on Zillow yet on my team. So depending on the lead source, it can go, you could pick which agents it can go to. You could do round robin, or you could do the first to claim system. And then depending on the lead source again, it decides what action plan is going to be assigned to each specific. Yeah, there's a great example. So which agent it's assigned to, depending on the lead source, which, if it goes to a lender, and then which action plan. Because, I mean, obviously a Ylopo lead is going to be handled very different than a Zillow lead coming in. So, and it might go to a completely different agent, or it might go to an ISA. So just to be able to customize that is amazing.
And speaking of that, so we're talking about your lender in there. You just brought up an ISA. You brought up your agent. There's all these different people that have access to the lead activity, right? Because there's different people doing different things in the system. Based on your own internal workflows and own processes, there's different people in there. So Dan, can you talk a little bit about, how the system's set up for those multiple, viewers or multiple users?
Yeah, definitely. So we have like a dedicated lender access. So, you can collaborate with your lenders. You can have them also, if you're working with multiple, you could have them be round robin, similar to the agents when you're getting new leads. And I think the other thing which people are, like, obviously the ISA is a core workflow. So for us, if you have an ISA and they're not using us, I would just really get them to try us, because I think a lot of the workflows we've built in there are really built around the needs of an ISA, like being able to warm transfer calls and stuff like that. But I think what's exciting that I've seen teams do that sort of take it to the next level, like with our system or others, is they're actually getting more people involved. So like, the photographer that goes and photographs the house, and, other people that are involved in the transaction. I think especially when there's like, you're closing hundreds of deals, people want to start getting that extra efficiency. So, that it's not all happening in different silos. You can be assigning tasks to that person. They can be leaving notes and mentions in our system. So you can mention that person, like this is what's going on here. So that's a little bit like we try and make that easy. Don't see everyone doing that, but I think that's one of the cool things that, we have seen from people just trying to like, save on coordination and communication overhead, essentially.
Love it.
Being able to upload attachments into each individual. So if you have a client who just opened up escrow, or if you got a client who just got pre-qualified, that lender can go in and add the attachment onto that client's contact, so that everyone can see it throughout the entire process. So that's a huge one too.
That is huge. So we have a question on here. Do you have a good company for a customized phone app to share with clients? I don't know if they're talking about like a home search app, but you guys have an app on Followup Boss. You want to talk about that quick?
Sure. Yeah. So we've got an iPhone app. It lets you, a bit more specific there. Basically lets you manage your contacts on the go. One of the cool things is it also gives you caller ID, so you know which of your clients or leads are calling you.
That's huge.
As you answer.
That is huge, because agents are terrible at answering their phone, but if it's one of their leads or one of their clients that comes in, I love that feature.
That's absolutely huge, because nobody's answering their phone no more because it's all spam.
Right.
So, the fact is people are avoiding calls they don't recognize. Agents are too.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you can also, text back and forth with your agents from here, access all your notes. So all the usual stuff you would expect. And then, I wonder if they were referring to a home search site. I mean, normally your website company, like whether you're with Ylopo or whoever you're with, like they're going to be giving you a mobile friendly version of your site. So
yeah, and if you don't have that, Home Snap is really one of my favorites. That and HomeSpot are both good. Cool. Yeah. The other thing I was going to say too, we're talking a lot about teams and team workflows. As you grow, you get bigger, you scale, your systems have to dial in to prevent you from dropping the ball. Efficiency gets to be a big problem. What about your solo agent? What about your average agent doing 15 to 25 deals a year? Why do they need a system like this?
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of solo agents using the system. I was actually talking with someone yesterday where they're basically looking to double their production this year. They're a single agent. They're doing really well. They did really well last year, but they just realized like how much money they left on the table through not systemizing it, through not doing the basic things, I think, with like time blocking and stuff like this. So this year they're really coming into 2020 with just a much more concrete plan. And, you know, when you're dedicating that time to do the follow-up, to make the calls and do all those kind of things, of course, you really want a tool that's going to make you more effective at that and faster at that. You know, you could just use your phone and a notepad, but you're just going to be so inefficient compared to someone that just has technology to help them. So, yeah, I think that's a big thing. And then I think even early on, like if you can start to, if you are thinking of building a team, like the sooner you start having systems, that's just going to make it easier to like then get an admin and then, you know, add a buyer's agent and basically have the system there that you're already familiar with, you know, to carry on and grow your team. But yeah, even if you're a single agent, I think you need to be time blocking. You need to be looking for tools that can make your time in that block more effective. So some kind of system that can help you, you know, make calls and text faster, I think is for sure the way to go.
I also like to think of it like this. A lot of agents tend to be really good. They tend to be really good in that whole client experience realm. Like when they're working with a high intent buyer and seller, they're focused on that person. They're really focused on that person's experience, their needs. I mean, being hyper responsive to them. It gets harder to focus on the prospecting and follow-up side of your business when you have clients. It gets harder to do. Not impossible, but it gets harder to do. And if you don't automate part of that system, you tend to drop the ball because your primary focus is those that you're working with right now. A lot of solo agents, I feel, struggle with that piece. So if the piece of follow-up and prospecting can be very automated, they just sit down in the morning, their list pops up, they make their dials, they write their notes, they set their action plans and tasks, and they're off. To me, that makes it much easier. Stites, do you agree?
100%. If you're just relying on trying to remember who to follow up with today, you're leaving so much on the table. I can't even imagine still using a notepad. I can't even imagine. I mean, it's so much nicer to just come into the office, sit down, whether you're using a smart list or whether you're using the follow-up today, to know exactly who I need to contact. You're going to get through it faster. You're going to be more efficient, and you're going to close more deals.
So I will say this too. A lot of the agents I sit down with and we start looking at their business development, the first question we usually ask them is, well, let me see your database. And so often, believe it or not, there's still agents out there doing a sizable business that have no database. They've never put it together. So Dan, can you give us a walkthrough, like database 101? How do you build one?
Yeah, so I think like we get a fair few of those coming to us as well. And I think the first thing you got to do is just find out where your contacts are, right? So in some ways, like those people are using their phone or Outlook as a CRM. You know, they have a lot of contacts in those systems. I think it's really just a matter of like pulling them out and then just going through and categorizing like, oh, I did a deal with this person. Great, past client, you know, or like, you know, this person said they're interested, like, let's put them as hot. So I think that's sort of a process which doesn't sound like the most fun thing in the world to go through, like, I don't know, 1,000 contacts and like categorize them. But at the same time, like that's where your deals are. That's where your repeat business is. So that's a practical thing I think that needs to happen. And then I think, you know, I guess like the main thing from there is once you have a system, just keep that up to date, like commit to one system, you know, obviously automate what you can to flow in, but then when you meet someone as well, make sure they add them to your database. If you have an email marketing plan, which you should, right? Like make sure they're getting your emails. So yeah, I think you just got to commit to building that. And, you know, like you said, I mean, you guys have a database of 150,000 people. That's a lot of people, right? David's got one of 30,000 plus people. It's a lot of people, right? So it's, you know, you build that asset up over time, essentially, and then that becomes an asset for your business and team. So yeah, that's how to get started, I think.
So Dan, is there anything to help with that? You know, when you talk about compiling your contacts, you're looking in your Gmail account, you're looking in your Facebook friends, and you think, I've got 1,000 or 1,500 people that I know who they are, that probably know who I am. Now I'm going to get them into Followup Boss. Hey, how do you get them compiled? And how do you get them into Followup Boss? You know, can you just talk really quick is there some technology behind that, or do you have to sit down and type individually every single name?
No, so we have like a really easy import tool. Basically, I have a video that walks you through it. So what you'll do is like typically get a CSV file from whether it's your Outlook or if you've done some kind of export from your phone, there's apps that let you export to a CSV file. And then basically, whatever data you have, so you're generally going to have their name, their phone, their email, but you might also have some background notes or other things, you know, in Outlook or in your phone. You can import all of those as well. Obviously, if you're coming from another database, or some people do keep like, you know, a Google Sheet or something like that, then it's really easy. Like our tool, sure how much you can see of this, but it basically says like whatever's in that file, we're just going to match that up with a field in Followup Boss. So yeah, it's something which always honestly seems daunting, but it's not that hard. And, you know, so yeah, we have a pretty easy tool to do that basically.
Nice. So a couple more questions that came in was, do you offer an email blast for open houses, just listed, stuff like that? So basically, you know, mass or batch emails for those purposes.
Yeah, Dave, I don't know if you're using the batch email feature at all, are you?
Yeah, some of our agents do batch emails out for open houses, or if a client is tagged, say they're looking in Menifee, they'll pull up all of their Menifee tagged clients, and if we get a new listing, send that listing out to them.
Nice, beautiful. So Dan, is there going to be an Android app anytime soon?
Yeah, we have an Android app.
You do? Okay, good deal.
Just get an iPhone. That's the right answer. Just get an iPhone.
We agree. Finally, we agree on something, Stites. Okay, so other than that, is there any kind of last minute, you know, follow up or things you'd like to add, either of you guys, before we wrap it up?
I just want to stress the importance of, no matter what the lead is, the more automated your process is for importing those contacts, so you don't have to manually sit there and import the contacts, because most agents aren't good at it. I should say almost all agents are not good at it. The more you can automate that process and integrate in automatically and have action plans automatically be assigned to it with tasks spit out, so you know exactly what to do or what to have your agents do, the more you can do that, the more successful and the more deals you're going to close.
Nice. Dan, anything?
Awesome. Yeah, just a couple of takeaways, I think, from hearing you guys chat. I think it's super important everyone time blocks and encourages their team to time block. Yeah, the coaching piece is massive. So if you guys are adding massive value to your agents like that, and then, yeah, like just make sure you've got systems that support and can help, you know, enhance those things you're already trying to do. Yeah, I think that's the goal.
So my last thing I'd like to add is, you know, always be looking. I look at this almost like air traffic control. You know, you've got all these people sitting in a database, some contacts that aren't going to do anything for years, other people that are going to move in a month, and you got to spend time really organizing and understanding those. And it's always dynamic. People are always changing and moving. How many times have you seen a home search that's been described to you 6 months ago and the buyer buys something completely different? Not at all what they told you're going to buy, because dynamically their needs change. Like, things change, and if you don't keep up with that, you're going to miss opportunities. So being in your database, constantly moving things around, constantly restructuring, and focusing on the right people at the right time takes systems. It takes systems, and it takes, you know, following those systems and time out of your schedule to do it. And the more automation and the easier it is to do, the more deals you're going to close. So my advice to anybody watching this is get your systems dialed in, because it's not just about, you know, finding people that are ready right now. Understanding their timeline and intention. Their timeline might be a year from now, and their intention is that they don't want to look at houses yet, they just want a home search. Give them that. But that might change in 3 months when they get a raise or something happens and there's something changed in their life. So make sure you're monitoring by their behavior and what they're doing in your system if they should be escalated up to the front of the line. So it's paying attention to those kind of systems, and making sure that your approach is more dynamic and more flexible. That's allowed us to do, you know, a sizable business in lead generation. Anything else before we're done, guys?
Go Chiefs.
I knew you'd have something. There.
Gotta escape from your dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, let me out of the dungeon now.
I will. Let me go downstairs and let you out real quick. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
See you. Bye.